Hola a todos, soy Pamela de Enviamos. En medio de la pandemia del coronavirus, un problema que no está siendo discutido es el racismo que están viviendo los asiáticos-americanos en Estados Unidos, donde generalmente no realizamos entrevistas. Sin embargo, como muchos espectadores lo pidieron, enviamos a nuestros corresponsales, Tony y Jordan, a Washington D.C. y a San Francisco para saber más sobre la perspectiva de los afectados. ¿Qué tan grave es el racismo que están viviendo en Estados Unidos como minoría? Lo sabremos a continuación.
We're doing this interview today to find out how Asian Americans have been affected by this pandemic. By the way, what's your background?
I'm Chinese American. My parents are from Hong Kong and immigrated here.
And you are an American citizen, correct?
Correct, yep.
So I am Vietnamese American. I was born here.
So you're a U.S. citizen for
Yes, U.S. citizen.
So I'm from Nepal. I came to the U.S. when I was 6 years old, and both of my parents were born in Nepal. Nepal is a country in South Asia. It's bordered by China and India.
Are you an American citizen?
I am an American citizen.
How has the COVID-19 affected you as an Asian American person?
Mentally, it has kind of affected me negatively. Just because before COVID happened, I was an English teacher in China, where, I was viewed as kind of like an outsider, a foreigner. And then having to come back to the US because of COVID and being viewed as like an outsider in my own country, that's also kind of affected me negatively.
Honestly, I've been fortunate enough to not be confronted. I would sometimes get people give me, they will do a double take when I'm walking by, especially when I'm doing walks with my dog or just walking around, and some people would, intentionally walk a little further when I saw someone just walk past them. So you could see it, it's very passive, but they'll just go around their way to avoid you, so.
I think it affected me most on social media, where I saw my fellow Asian Americans getting kind of made fun of in the beginning, like in March and in February, calling them racial slurs, calling them dirty, and it hurt seeing a fellow Asian American facing that in other parts of the country. I myself, fortunately, has not. But again, it just sucks seeing like on media, like you see an Asian guy or an Asian girl getting made fun of. And we have a president that calls it Kung Flu, and the China virus doesn't make it any better.
How bad is the racism towards Asians at this moment?
I do remember near the start of COVID, there were plenty of viral videos going around with many Asians being bullied in public. I do vividly remember, I believe it was a elderly Asian male being bullied on the streets, and that wasn't so great. I know a lot of cities, there's been plenty of videos of just Asian people publicly being harassed on the streets. In the beginning, I saw a lot of my friends post on social media sites like Facebook about their own experiences, and these are people I'm very close with too. So it's typical. She was at a store, she was wearing her mask, and you have person of non-Asian descent kind of just go up and start spouting some stuff like the Kung Flu, how it's every Asian's fault even though she wasn't even Chinese, like kind of stuff like that, just throwing a lot of derogatory and bigoted messages towards Asian people in general.
Well, I think that even before COVID, racism, even in a predominantly Asian American community, has always existed. It was just heightened quite a bit by COVID because people would call it the China virus, right? And if they see you and you look Asian, then they might call you out for it. It really depends on which area you're in as well. But I've heard people say go back to China, and it's just a really sad thing, especially because a lot of people were born here.
In our area, like East Coast is a little bit better because of the diversity in our community, but for like a lot of the states in like the Midwest, there's a lot, like you hear a lot of reports about like grandparents being attacked, like just like unprovoked yelling, insults, and it's scary because a lot of people are targeting older Asian Americans. Before the coronavirus coronavirus got really bad in America, before we had mandated face masks, there were a lot of people where, like, if my mom and I were shopping, they would see who we are and then, like, immediately do something to cover their face that they don't do with anybody else. And, like, I've traveled to the West Coast by car, so I've been through a lot of the middle states, and there, some of the states are a little weird. I got cussed at randomly at a gas station for no reason. When we were driving, somebody started yelling at us and then saying that we should go back to our own country.
So, by the way, where do you think this animosity towards Asians is coming from? When did it all start?
I mean, it's just like where it started. It's like it started in China, yes, we know, but we also currently have a racist president. And he likes to say things like it's the China virus, it's Kung flu. It's perpetuating like this stereotype that like Asian people are like unsanitary or they're sick or and people hear that and like not everybody obviously like resonates with it, but like the people that are obviously racist feel more empowered and emboldened to speak up. They think that they are speaking up for everybody and they're just the ones brave enough to do it. But that's not the case. Like most people don't think that way, but it's just like because our president is showing that it's okay to make these comments, obviously people follow through.
I think the last time it was this bad might be like in the beginning of Asian American history when Asians start coming over here. We had America initially was very anti-Chinese and anti-Asian with the Asian American Chinese Exclusion Act. And then since then, I think in recent history, I don't think it was as bad. But again, I'm speaking from a San Francisco native, so I can't speak for other people throughout the country. But yeah.
I think actually this is kind of scary, but I feel like some of this animosity already existed, but it was obviously living in the Bay Area in SF. Everyone's supposed to be more liberal and more accepting of everyone else, and it's a very diverse place. But like when something like a global health crisis is happening, that's when people kind of show their true colors a little more. I don't think it's anything new. In the 1900s, when there was a pandemic that was not even to this level, I guess, but they quarantined all of SF Chinatown, and they kind of worked around the how they quarantined Chinatown was the white businesses around it, they were fine, so they kind of made the lines around that. So this is nothing new. It's whenever there is some type of crisis that like affects all human beings that are around each other, I feel like that's when people are grouped back into their categories. We're no longer integrated in society anymore. We're no longer just like a Asian American coworker or Asian American friend. It's them versus us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think America throughout its history definitely does a fortunate good job of like using minority groups when they need to find an easy like excuse or scapegoat for certain things. So I definitely think it's like not something we've seen so like drastically in our generation, but it's like been happening definitely for throughout all of American history.
So as an Asian American, how does this whole situation make you feel?
It definitely did make me a little bit angry, considering that I was born here, I'm an American citizen. Why am I to blame for something that happened, halfway across the world? I think, that's kind of like the gist of racism. It's just, you have to put the blame on somebody and someone's gonna have to take the fall for it.
I mean, I feel like people are slowly getting better, but change doesn't come overnight. I don't think everyone's racist, but I do think there's a loud minority that is racist. I feel like you notice the people who are acting racist to you more than the people who just don't approve of racism. But on the other hand, when someone is acting racist, I feel like a lot of people just don't speak up. And I feel like that's a responsibility that we share. I feel like if more people spoke up, then that's one way we would be able to combat racism.
I think it just heightened my awareness around racism. Before the pandemic, even before Trump got elected, I think I was very naive that, okay, racism it's over with. You know, I think we moved on from it. But after 2016, after this president took the office and the slow racial divide that he has caused, I think I've been much more aware, and me myself had to take a part to you know, speak out and educate myself on what I need to do and how to solve the larger issue.
But surely these people being racist towards Asians, at least most of them, I mean, they should tell by your accent that you're American, right?
Actually, no. I mean, you get the microaggression like, oh, where are you from? And then like, some of my friends, they would have been born here and they're like, oh, I'm from Baltimore. And they're like, no, but like, where are you really from? Like, there's an acceptance of us, but also there's kind of like a thin line that they still separates us a little bit.
I guess it all comes with how we look, you know? Like, we look different, and so when they see us, it just, I don't know, like they treat us different maybe. Like there's always been like an underlining, some type of stereotype, and I think it comes from like stereotyping, so that it leads to racism. So I think that's where it comes from.
I'm sure they can tell that I'm American, but you know, I think that just because you're American doesn't shield you from racism. Like, racism happens to other Americans all the time. For instance, Black Americans, Latino Americans. So I don't think racism is solely a, you know, immigrant versus native-born conflict.
I mean, I think to people like that person, we're first seen as foreigners. It doesn't matter what type of Asian you are, you're just a foreigner. Yeah, it's kind of sad because like I am Asian American. I like grew up here.
Like the image of like an American, I guess, is still kind of very much defined as like if you imagine kind of if you just ask someone random on the street to describe an American, they'll probably, you know, most of the time like mention something white or someone that like looks white.
What do you think needs to happen for racism to stop?
So, first of all, what an individual can do is that when they see racism happen, they call out the individual. They can record it on their phone, post it on YouTube, so the racist individual can be called out. Law-wise, I feel like we need to do more on hate crimes. We need to define hate crimes more broadly.
Voting. We need to vote for politicians that have a relatively clean record of racism. We need to pay attention to new legislation passed. Maybe like sign more petitions just to do like, you know, the basic groundwork. Because like I know like not everyone's gonna go out and like march and like, you know, but like just at the very least sign petitions. Like at the very least, like be aware of what's happening, so then you're not ignorant when like something really serious ends up occurring.
I think it's gonna take some time, but I feel like conversations within smaller bubbles, within your smaller communities, actually does make a really big difference. Sometimes people don't intend to be racist, but their comments are racist, and you know, so that's where you come in with gentleness and love, and you just kind of let them know like, hey, that wasn't such a cool thing to say. Maybe we can look at it in this perspective. And that's going to come with some time and wisdom, right? Not everyone is going to respond well, but we can't control what other people do. We can only control what we say and do.
Would you consider leaving America if things don't improve?
Oh, definitely. Oh yeah, get me out of here.
Where would you go? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, probably Canada. Look, Canada's nice. Hong Kong if things die down, which probably, I don't know. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see about that one, but yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I think that, you know, I'm born in the U.S. I'm an American. This country's my home. You know, I've worked abroad, and you know, I don't think anything can compare it to the U.S.
I was born in the States, so it's kind of hard to make that decision. You know, like all my life, I've been immersed into this culture. So I don't think I could really, it would take a lot of thinking for me. But like if it came down to that where, you know, I'm very worried for like my family's sake, like my grandparents, my mom, like if it gets to that extent, like probably I would go back to Asia where my extended family are in Vietnam, because in some ways, like, I know it will be safer for them there.
And lastly, what would you like to tell people who are, they have racist intentions or they exhibit racially prejudiced behavior and want to blame COVID on Asians or another ethnicity? What would be a statement or just one thing that you would like to tell them personally?
Right. Well, one, I would probably ask why, where they're coming from, try to understand their point of view. But at the same time, it's why are you doing this, right? Why point fingers and blame people when you could be doing your part to help out, right?
Well, I just want to say that you're still human, and we all make mistakes, whether we are racist or not. And so I really hope that there will be somebody in their lives that can maybe shed some light and speak with gentleness about what's really happening. But ultimately, hopefully the whole world is going to realize that racism, it's not something that we can tolerate.
Hey, look, man, I didn't do anything, but if you want any swim lessons, hit me up. I could be your gym partner. I can teach you how to cook some really cool Asian cuisine, and I could even, just hang out. We could play video games. I'm a normal person. I'm like your neighbor, and if you're just gonna go around blaming all your neighbors, I mean, that's not a good, that's not good practice. So I'd definitely say try to understand the situation, get to know somebody, and then make your judgment call.
¿Qué te parecieron las respuestas? ¿Te sorprendió alguna de ellas? Déjanos tu comentario. Queremos agradecer profundamente a Tony y Jordan por hacer de esto posible. Si quieres compartir tu opinión o alguna historia relacionada, puedes descargar nuestra aplicación Mogao, cuyo link se encuentra en la descripción. Gracias por ver este video y, como siempre, mantente curioso.